If you haven't seen the video where I explain why I don't do a lot of weapon affixes, especially for the Japanese PSO, you can look above my head or in the description. This is gonna most likely play a factor to why I wouldn't make a lot of weapon affixes later for the global PSO2 because of these S-class abilities. Well, with global, you're not going to get all of these S-class abilities right off the bat. They will add it in due time. It's just that there are a lot of options, so that's a lot of things to deal with. However, this is just going to be a straightforward, easy video talking about like some common abilities you can go for before these S-class abilities become a thing. Note that if you do have a very specific build where you need to use status effects, I will make a separate video talking about those effects, and then I might go more into details of certain formulas that you can go for, so you can emphasize on that. There are certain builds that will try to use status effects. I don't know if it's common over there in North America. I know a couple people who would actually emphasize on status effects here and there. I don't know if they're still playing the game though, and they're still using the stuff that focuses around those abilities. But once again, this is just common abilities, like easy methods to get attack on your weapon. If you want something else though, let me know in the comments. I'll try to figure out how to go about making a formula for you guys. And yeah, I'm going to be using Affix Simulator for this. Let me actually change that. Don't know why that was bigger than the other. So, easy way to actually go about fixing. If you want an easy 5 slot, just make sure that the weapon you have is at a 5 slot, and then try to get a bunch of 13 stars that can give you a bunch of SAFs of different abilities. You don't want them to be the same type, so if it's like a Flint Arma, Flint Magia, or like what is it? Yeah, that's 3 of them. Or a bunch of soul abilities, and avoid it. I'm just gonna randomly put a bunch of stuff. So, let's say you want to focus on your S attack. So, let's say you got like Sentence Armor as a SAF ability. This is gonna be 100% transferable as long as you don't upslot. If you upslot, that's gonna ruin it. So you don't want to upslot. You want to stay at the slot that you are aiming for. Then, now I'm not 100% sure on what weapons you have over there that gives you these certain SAFs. You have to do a bit of research on that. I will have a link in the description for that. And also, if you want to use this to your advantage, use these formulas, stare at these formulas, manipulate these formulas to your liking. I will have the link to this in the description as well. So, I highly doubt there's a Apprentice Soul as a SAF. Maybe. Let me stare at that. So yeah, I will have this in the... Oops, did not want to try to close out of everything. Now, where's my fixed one? There we go. Let me go back to this. I will have that in the description. So let me see if there's an apprentice for this. Nope, there's no apprentice SAF. So... Oh, but there's an Astro one, though. So let's do that. If you can get what I'm getting at, this is like an easy affix right here, making sure that everything is at 100%. I think you guys have a power. Power 5? Yeah, power 5 is a thing, so let me go get that. And then what's the one ability? No, it's called Might 5. Jesus Christ, I hate these fucking names. And then the last one would be, you can use a pop item if you have if you got one. I would try to avoid using a pop item. Unless you just have it and you don't mind popping it, that's on you. Let's say I want to get maybe... Let's go with Flint Armor, maybe. I think you can combine Flint and Sentence together. What weapon would give a Flint Armor anyways? Sacrifice Darker NT. Are those 11 stars? Yeah, those are 11 stars. Let's see. Sentence and Flint can be together? Yeah, they can be. So, here's an easy affix you could go for. Astro Soul Modulator, Flint, Sentence Armor, and then a Might. All at 100%. Gives you a whopping plus 145. Plus 65 range power, technique plus 65. melee range, technique defense plus 35, dex plus 35, HP plus 55, PP plus 100. Like, all you need to do is try to find the weapon that you need to upgrade and try to get to plus 35. I think the weapon is at plus 35. This might not be a thing over there in NA though. I don't know. You're gonna have to look at this list and see if you can find something that does whatever you need to do or whatever SAF it can give. It goes into a lot more specifics and it goes into like the S-class abilities as well. Don't know if they updated this thing. Oh no, they did. So yeah, that's one way to go about it. If you have a bunch of SAFs, like to get the SAF, this kind of goes into a video that I need to redo just to emphasize on it. But you need a plus 35 a weapon. Once you plus 35 weapon, you need to make sure it's at the same slot number or higher. So if I were to affix with a 5 slot, I need to make sure that the weapon itself is at a 5 slot or higher. Get it to plus 35, and then I will have that SAF. Now, you can physically unlock it onto your weapon and or unit. Note that this is going to be a thing later for units as well. It's just that you might want to finalize it on certain conditions. For example, if you have a Reverie or a Catalyst SAF, later you'll get this thing called a Profound Weapon, which then will be used to go for an upgrade to a Celestial. Then it will go into the Lightstream, which is a 15-star weapon series. This particular ability is an SAF. Same can be said with like a Factor Catalyst as well. So yeah, for example, this thing is an SAF. Guess what? Even though you have it as an SAF on a Profound, it doesn't actually count as an actual affix until you affix it. So if I were to finalize this, get rid of this weapon, and put a Reverie Catalyst on this permanently, not having it as a SAF, then it can be used to make Mana Rev. Bit complicated though, especially if you did not understand a word of that. This goes into a lot more advanced stuff. But yeah, this is one way to go about doing your weapon affixes. However, getting stuff to plus 35 might eat up a good chunk of your Meseta just because of the fee that you had to pay when it comes to doing your level potentials and getting from 1 or whatever number it is that's below 10 all the way up to 35. Also, you need to pay attention to your weapon and see if it has the max grind rarity of 35. If it does not, then you would need to try to get it to a max grind rarity of 35. Most likely though, all of the drops over there for North America Global PSO2 are dropping with 35s. In the past, it did have different numbers, which I displayed in my video talking about max rarity and how to go about grinding it. But let's say you don't want to use a bunch of SAFs and you do have a couple fodder materials, so maybe you don't really want to try to get a Might 4 right off the bat. Maybe you have some materials that have a bunch of Might 3s and then a couple mutations. So let's say, for example, this thing over here has a Might 3. Apparently, let's say this piece comes with a Might 3. And then this piece over here has like a mutation too. What you can then do, let me exit that, is like ignore, like you don't need to have this piece over here. So you got something that's already something like this, which saves you money as well, because the lower or the less amount of fodder materials you use, the lower the cost. So usually if you use all of the material item list stuff, it's gonna be at, what is it? It's going to be at a whopping, it's going to roughly be $1 million to do that affix cost. If you decide to lower it down though, this might roughly be around 500,000-ish, bit more, but it's half of that cost. So you're saving a good 500,000 to put towards something else. So yeah, you could do something like Astral Soul, Modulator, Flint, Sentence Armor, and then a Might 4. You might need to use 40% or 30% to get this to 100%. I feel like I did something wrong. Yeah, like I'm missing another Might. So if I had another Might somewhere, let's say I have a Ray weapon and I decide to put a Might 3 in this, then I can easily get a Might 4 by just using 30%. Like, yes, you can use a SAF and try to get a Might 5, but it's only, what, a 5% different, or a 5 number difference, because melee power right now is like at a whopping 140. with might 5. Yeah, it's just a 5 difference, 5 number difference. This is on you if you want to try to do something like this instead. Not going to cost, excuse me, it's not going to cost as much. Especially if you want to do, like, let's say it doesn't have a might 3 on this particular unit piece. I think you guys could easily get a bunch of grade 3s on your weapons as drops. You might need to manipulate it in a sense, but it's not going to be hard to try to do this with like an affix boost. So let's say you have, let me copy this. So let me get rid of all of these things, or most of these things. Let's say you have a ray weapon, and what you can do, let's say this is over here instead, and then we can delete this. So yeah, what you can do is pretty much like, I might suggest something like this instead, because if you want to try to transfer this, you might as well see if you can get a mutation 2 to come along. Gamble with that, because that's not that bad. Actually, maybe you don't want to use that's a 5 slot. No, that's not a 5 slot. Let me move something. What the bloody hell? Motherfucker. I need another junk. So if I have something like this, if this is the ray weapon or union weapon, either one of those two, and I want to try to affix a might or a mutation onto it, I could do something like this. And then gamble with a 30. So I could try to get that mutation along, which then will allow me to go for a might 4 later. So instead of doing something like that, I could do something like this. Doesn't work because I decided to delete that. Again, I need to find something to replace this. Where's the junk? Let's go with I. So yeah, the only thing you would need to do then is try to put might on something else. Or maybe you don't want to put a might over there. You could do something like this. And then like, it'll cost a good 1 million, roughly around, to do all these in one slot, in one go. But you know, whatever suits, whatever floats your boat. Obviously, once again, you can easily go about making easy 5 slots with SAFs. It's just that it's gonna cost to get these 2 plus 35 to get them at the slot number that you wanted at, which is a 5 slot. It's not gonna be as bad though. But it does eat up your setup just because it stacks, because you're doing this for 5 material items compared to something like this where it's like, if you got some of the pieces, you can actually manipulate it so it doesn't cost as much. Maybe you can also lessen this this hold and just like have this somewhere else. The weapon affixes shouldn't be as expensive on the market. If it is, then I'll be goddamn surprised. But most of the time when it comes to weapon affixes, they're not as expensive. So like a might 3 on a weapon, for an 8 slot, it could easily cost like a good 5,000, 50,000, maybe 100,000, but it's not gonna be as bad. But once again, I don't know how the market is over there. A lot of people told me like it goes up and down and stuff. I don't know how the pricing is over there for weapon affixes, but if you can do it for cheap compared to you going out of your way to like get something like a weapon that you need to plus 35 and get it to 5 slots and use up a good chunk of resources to do that, instead you might want to find an alternative, like go for might 4 instead, where you can still get like roughly around the same stats. It's just that it's not going to be as, it's not going to be like the maximum. So yeah, the thing is with NA and your current augments abilities, SAFs makes it easy to try to get these affixes, these formulas that you can go for. I'm trying to think of some other ways to go about this without spending as much. but the problem is that you'll end up stacking, and SAFs, they're easy because you don't need to stack as many. All you need to do is make sure that the weapon in itself is at plus 35 and it's at the desired slot number that you want to toy around with. So yeah, if I wanted to try to get modulator, guess the normal way, guess what? I'm gonna need 3 modulators. I don't know how much that costs in the market. If it's actually cheap compared to you going for a weapon that you need a plus 35 and spending a good million, then you could gamble and try to do it the normal means. But yeah, there's a lot of situational stuff that I'm not aware of in terms of the weapon market over there in NA. And also, I don't know which exact weapons you guys have so you can get some of these SAFs. I know that you got the Jix weapons, and they do offer sentence abilities. Because I have a bunch of them over here in the Japanese PSO2 at 8 slots. And then I have Rays and Unions that give Astral Soul. And they're at 8 slots. Everything else, though, it's like, I remember there's a weapon that gave a modulator, but I don't know if you guys got it over there. Power abilities, we do have like grade 6 powers, or technically might 6, position 6, and casting 6 grades over here, over in the Japanese PSO2. I think you guys can easily go for a grade 5 one instead. Once again, you will want to use this to your advantage in terms of figuring out what item gives you what, or what weapon gives you what SAF. Well, yeah. Like, these are most of the abilities you would aim for. Like, there is... I don't know if you guys actually got the factor receptor one. Let me look at this list over here. Actually, not the factor receptor. Actually, there is a factor receptor SAF. It's just that I was looking for... What is it? Factor catalyst, and it's... No, you guys don't have that 14 star yet. But yeah, I'm scratching my head trying to figure out like what other abilities you guys could go for. Doom breaks are on a particular... I think you guys can go for Doom Break 1 and 2, but obviously you would want to try to push for 3 instead of 1 and 2. If you need a placeholder, you need something temporary, you can do that. Instead of going for modulator, maybe you want to go for Fevers, ARKS Fevers. You can easily toy around with that at a 5 slot. Like instead of having the SAF of this, you can easily manipulate these Fevers. If it's at a 5 slot with a bunch of junk abilities, you can try to easily manipulate that. So you can get something like that instead. And I mean, if you want to, you could do... I feel like I'm deviating away. So yeah, there's the original one. There's the one that I tampered around with. And then this is a breakdown to how you can get something like this on this. And then this one is just... getting ARKS Fever instead of the one thing. So instead of modulate, so you got Astral Soul, you got like a Sentence, Armor, Flint, Might 4, and then an ARKS Max. Use a 30%, everything's at 100%. And you can see that this is gonna cost a bit less as well, just because I got rid of like 2 of those fodder slots. And this thing, it's not like the other formula that I have with this one, which I think it gets a whopping 140. No, that's the wrong one. This was the 140, I think. Actually, no, is it? Let me see. Yeah, this is 140, and then I guess the other one is 145 if you go for a Might 5. So yeah, you can see this is more of a way to get into affixing without actually going through a headache of a manipulation process, like you just toying around with like a fodder piece and trying to get all these squished together. It will save you money in terms of you doing the final affix, and also not going out of your way to get these weapons that you need and get it to plus 35 and get it at the slot numbers. You can easily do something like this, but then again, it depends on the fodder pieces, because if you don't have like ARKS Fever at 5 slots, actually it's not that bad to even build up to the higher slots. I'll have to make a video talking about that in due time. In its own separate video, talk about Fevers. But yeah, you could do something like this. Obviously, if you want to use a pop item, let me just copy this one, for example. Let's say instead of using a Flint Armor, you will want to use like a Power instead. Like a Noble Boost or Elegant. Elegant will most likely pop up during the Affix week, Because they tend to introduce new grade types upon the different episodes. So what's the one for power? Okay, I'm skimming over it. So if I wanted like to emphasize on S attack, I go for the Grace ability. Or is it Grace or is it Elegant? Elegant. Okay, so Elegant Might, for example, guess what? This gives you a whopping plus 165, which is 25 more than what this ability can give you. But once again, with episode coming around the corner, I would kind of back away from doing these weapon affixes. Like, I wouldn't really use the Elegant Might on this with episode 5 coming around. I would do something like this if I had the funds to do so. If I really want to be cheap about it though, I might do something like this just as a temporary use, so I can get like the 14 star 15 stars that are to come with the S class abilities as well. And you can easily replace some of these abilities with episode 5 stuff in due time. For example, instead of getting like maybe ARKS Max, you may want to have a Reverie instead. So if I were to copy this formula, for example. Now let me make sure there are no Reverie SAFs. There's only the Persona one, but that's on 2 15 stars, particular 15 stars, and then you got the Reverie catalysts. But other than that, there are no loser, elder, Reveries, and all that. If I wanted to emphasize on my S attack, for example, and obviously if you want to swap this to R or T or your position / casting, just change these with what you need to change it with. So instead of Sentence Armor, you want the Magia instead. But yeah, let me actually put this in here. Now, this one's gonna be a slight headache. It's not as bad, but you do need to manipulate it in a way. And you might end up using all these slot fodder holders as well. So yeah, you could do something like this instead. So Astral Soul, where are you? Elder, Arma, Might. Then if you want, you can go for Elegant, and this is gonna increase it drastically compared to the one that I made earlier with the 165. So this thing, for example, it's a 170. Well, that's only like a, what, 5 difference? Yeah, 5 difference. You could get rid of Sentence Armor though and go for like ARKS Max, and then that increased it further to 175. And it's entirely up to you to toy around with these formulas. Yeah, toy around with these formulas, figure out your budget that you want to spend, because understand that, you know, this is your fixes. This is how you want to customize it and stuff. If you want very specific builds around something else like a status element effect, because you can only do those on weapons, let me know in the comments. But this is pretty much it when it comes to you go about with weapon affixes. Like this is the easiest one here, but it does stack against you in terms of you making sure that it does go through and you get these specific weapons to have these SAFs and to grind them to plus 35 and get them to the same slot numbers or higher. But yeah, there's some cheap ones you can go for. Like if you don't want to go for 5 slots, let me know. 5 slot is manageable, especially with a 10%, because if you were to do the regular up slot process with just a bunch of junk abilities, when you get from a 4 slot to a 5 slot, this is where you want to start to this is when the percentage goes a bit wonky and you won't be able to do it easily. You would need to use a 40% to do the thing. Just to explain my point, or show you my point, I did explain this in the upslot process, both in the live presentation and in my PSO2 Affix simulator demonstration. But if I wanted to, let's say, try to get a 5 slot, go from 4 slot to 5 slot, you can see that I would need to use a 40% to try to get this all to 100%. But note that when it comes to getting a 40%, it's 100 X cube worth. So if you're able to at least have this sort of upgrade with an Affix week, especially a 10% or higher, you just need to use a 30%, which you can easily acquire from your weekly ARKS missions or trading in a good 20 X cubes to get them. You can get at least 5 of these 30% instead of getting 1 of the 40%. And those 30% on an affix week like 10 or higher can become 40% because of that boost week. But once again, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you want more formulas, let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.